Welcome to this new episode of the 101 Questions of AI. For once, I'm presenting the episode, and Michelle is gonna help me. Going through the topic of today's episode. We're talking about books, and we're talking about AI non-fictional books. So, Michelle, can you help me finding good recommendations for this summer? So what shall I bring to the beach this summer? Any particular suggestions?
Okay, so in preparation for the summer, I also did some research on this. We have three books that Luca and I are going to read, and we will see if we like them, but they're at the very top of the list. So the first one is called Genius Makers. So Goodreads has a rating of it of 4.28 out of 5, which is pretty high. Right.
Pretty good,
so
yeah.
it's pretty good, no? So it's written by this New York Times journalist that's based in Silicon Valley. So it was published very recently, last year, 2021. And the focus is that he looks into the human perspective behind artificial intelligence. So through the lives of like Jeff Hinton. So this is one of the godfathers of AI and other major players. So basically what it does, it explains the story of how the modern field of artificial intelligence came to be. So it's a nice historical book-ish that gives you a time frame of how AI has reached from the past and now to our modern times.
Oh, cool. I think I'm gonna certainly buy it and probably read it. What about the second one? I see here a note. It's called "What Computers Still Can't Do," and it's quite dated, right? It was published in 1972 by a guy called Herbert Dreyfus. It rings a bell, but I don't remember, who this guy is. Do you remember? Shall we Google it?
We can, but I'm pretty sure he's pretty big. Let me check.
It's a philosopher. Was a philosopher. Oh. Okay, American philosopher and professor at Berkeley. Excellent. So, what did he write, Michelle?
So it's basically a manifesto on the inherent inability of disembodied machines to mimic higher mental functions, cause an uproar in the artificial intelligence community. Okay, that's a lot of words, right? Basically, this man, he was able to say that, he gave a critique basically that of what we know today as supervised learning. So he was able to predict this idea of supervised learning even back then in 1972. And when he started talking about this, people were like, okay, that's crazy. It's impossible. What person deciding which cases are good examples, who is finishing intelligence? It seemed an impossible perspective. And then even his view on neural networks that are now dependent on human intelligence and how it mimics the human brain. Even then, he was able to predict what it is today. So as you can imagine, right, in 1972, if you publish something like this, it seems outrageous. Even now that we have these things, sometimes I sit around and I think about it, like, wow, we have these kind of technologies in neural networks, but I don't know.
Interesting. So this guy was obviously a visionary. Let's check it out. The third book that we have identified, or that you have identified, Michelle, is called The Alignment Problem. He's a 4.4 on Goodreads, so very high score. Written by Brian Christian, non-fictional author, quite a recent book. It was published in 2020. So what is this book about, Michelle?
So it's basically an explanation of the alignment problem in AI, from its technical foundations to its philosophical implications. So it discusses the inverse of reinforcement learning and the promise that this approach holds for building AI systems that we can trust. And as the viewers have known, at some point we're going to talk about trustability and all of this regarding AI and how we can actually build algorithms that we can trust because they are explainable, right? And we know how they function. That's why it's a pretty important book, I think.
Wonderful. And I think we're almost out of time. So we are thanking our listeners, and we are going to link these books in the description below. So if you want to purchase it on Amazon or on your favorite library, you're going to be able to do that. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.